2023 shows that the transportation and storage sector grew by 6.2% in 2023 compared to a growth of 5.8% in 2022. However, Honorable Ruku, you seem to feel that the transport sector should have contributed a bit more. Very, very briefly, before we move on.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that?
If you look at the transport sector, is the least contributor of economic growth in the year 2023, compared to the real estate, financial sector and agricultural sector, which also include forestry and fishing. And from where I stand, I believe that the transportation sector should be one of the key contributors to the economic growth. It should not be at the bottom. So we have a room of the managers who are within this sector to pull up their, to put their act in order so that we can see some improvement. So far, I'm not completely comfortable with that kind of contribution, because the data is there that we lose 1 billion US dollars, not even a Kenyan shilling, 1 billion USD per year, just because of congestion or traffic jam within our country. So we should be addressing this major contributor to the loss of our money as Kenyans. 1 billion Kenyan shilling, 1 billion US dollars is not a little amount of money. Mm-hmm. If there is a sector which is not properly planned and because of congestion, we are losing $1 billion. This data you can get it from Namata. Namata is the national Nairobi Metropolitan Authority, mm-hmm. which is under the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. You can be able to get some of this data. At that, we lose $1 billion US dollars just because of congestion. All right. Therefore, it is upon the Minister of Transport, C.S. Murkomen, to come up with the programs, to come up even with the regulations or to come up with the amendment. And that I have been trying to work on traffic management bill, which can revolutionize the transportation sector mm-hmm. of our country, but it's taking some time because I think we still have a long way to go. We have seen many other countries like South Korea, how it has changed their transport system within a very short period of time, and today they are properly well organized, creating so many jobs. We need to borrow some of these lessons from some of these countries. All right. So we cannot say that growth is enough for to be proud about. It is true, yes, there's a growth, but we can have a tremendous
and it's interesting when you say that, because when you say there's room for growth, then it means there's room for job creation, and there's also room for revenue collection for the country if this increases. So, Basil, what are your thoughts on this data, and especially drawing from what Ruku says? What more can be done?
But I don't want to take on the seriously negative. It has grown. There's room for growth. I always say the managers,
for the first time,
the managers of in the government, they should be able to.
They should do more. Let's have Basil give his thoughts.
But before he takes from me, overall, Kenya Kwanza administration, the President of the Republic has done what do you call it, a star performance, and everything is indicated in the report.
Let's hear from Basil. I don't know if Basil agrees, but let's have your thoughts on
the first time, Rukas has become a realist. And if he was honest in his contribution, just like he has done, I'm sure people of Bere would automatically give him a second term. Of course, I'm praying for him to get a second term so that we continue being in parliament together. But what I would say in reality is the transport sector is underperforming. And one of the simple reasons is negative ethnicity when it comes to allocation of resources. Because the CS, instead of equitably distributing resources geared toward the transport or improvement of transport sector, is doing it deliberately with that tribal lens or a negative ethnicity lens. And I'll give an example. If you look at the roads that have been upgraded to bitumen, most of them come from the area where he comes from. instead of applying Article 10 of the Constitution, particularly Sabbatical B, which talks of equity in governance and delivery of services. When it comes to the current system, we need to decongest urban roads. And the only way to decongest urban roads is to improve rural roads, upgrade them to bitumen standards. I will give a good example. Kibaki left Thika Super Highway. Today, Thika Super Highway is so congested, even people living along Thika Road are actually shifting to other areas because it's extremely busy when it comes to traffic. You can't even predict the time you're going to reach to your destination. And there's a very simple way to decongest Thika Super Highway. I'll give him a suggestion if he's watching us. People coming from Nyeri who wants to go to Mombasa, for example, and who have no business in Nairobi, can use an alternative road. If the Makuyu road, cutting through my constituency, Yatta constituency, cutting through Kitui constituency, cutting to Kibwezi to join Mombasa, Nairobi road, if it was upgraded to bitumen, that road would give or would serve as a game changer in decongesting Thika Road. Because people who are going to Mombasa and who have no business in Nairobi would use such a road, drive through Yatta constituency, drive through Kitui constituency, drive through Kibwezi constituencies. But those roads have never been tarmacked.
All right.
If you look at the number of roads that have been upgraded to bitumen, I would give an example in 3 counties: Machakos, Makueni, Kitui combined. For the last 10 years, they have received less than 300 kilometers of tarmacked road. And these are essential counties that could actually decongest some of our urban roads in the city.
Okay.
But the simple reason why that has not happened is because of tribalism, negative ethnicity, having tribal mindset when you are state officer, instead of equitably distributing resources and understanding that you are state officer who is supposed to deliver service for all Kenyans, not to deliver service based on areas where you feel you need to take services to. I would give another final example.
Let's hear from Sosion.
And that one is the last one. Recently, you saw the distribution of road bitumen standards. Kikuyu constituency received 1.6 billion alone. One constituency compared to the rest of the other 290 constituencies, 289 constituencies. And the simple reason that happened is the tribal mindset I'm talking about. And we need to change from this because this is our country, so that we move forward.
Do you agree with his sentiments on ethnic, the ethnic angle in allocation of resources?
I've debated Basil in many shows, and I find him extremely dishonest in advancing certain views that are not verifiable. They are mere, what I call inflammatory allegations that cannot be proved, and I don't think I can comment on that. The most important thing is to comment on what Honorable Ruku was quoting, the different sectors. But before that, you asked a question about the teachers and TSC. There is already ring-fenced 13 billion shillings to convert 26,000 teachers to PNP at the rate of 9 billion and to enhance the salaries of teachers at the rate of 4 billion. I think this is great investment by the Kenya Kwanza administration, even when the economy is struggle, and that is a huge promise of delivery of equitable quality education in our public education system. Back to the economic growth sector by sector, I think it's also good to classify into 2. There are sectors that have done well. Number 1 is accommodation and food service in the country at 33.6%. It's leading, doing very well. That means the tourism sector, the hospitality sector is the next frontier, and that is what we call the social service industry. And of course, tourism has done very well in terms of data. We've had more visitors, and of course, the occupancy of the hotels has been very good. This is an area that needs to be enhanced because it doesn't require much capital investment. It requires goodwill. The president's abolition of visa, making Kenya a free visa country, is already yielding results. Number 2, the second area that is doing very well in terms of GDP is the financial sector, and you've seen the banks, the rates of profits being declared by the banks. So the money market seems to be doing extremely very well in Kenya, and then ICT infrastructure sector at 9.3%, and then agricultural sector at 6.5%. So, and if you look at agriculture at 6.5%, probably a lot needs to be done. Sectors that are doing very badly, there is the manufacturing still at 2%. It's very low, Honorable Ruku. If we are still talking about manufacturing at 2%, and we want to stimulate the production sector, the manufacturing value addition, then it means even the manufacturing sector, a lot still needs to be done, together with the construction at 3%.
It's still on that for you, on manufacturing, Sosion, because 3%, yes. Manufacturers have complained that the contents and tax imposed in the last finance bill and now tax proposals in the next finance bill actually crippling.
I am not going to vote for manufacturers because I've worked in that space, because a key factor in that sector is labor, and labor that is available in Kenya, you cannot get it in the neighboring countries. And investors do not have to complain about the taxes. The taxes are reasonable. And you've seen the taxation rate in this country is still at 4% of the GDP, while many countries' economies are doing at 25%. So really, this is not a country where you do business for free. You are subject to taxation, and probably the president has projected that we should move gradually to 22%, which we agree.
But have we worked to streamline the business environment for manufacturing?
Yes, those are normal complaints, and being subjected to taxation is a statutory requirement. And let me tell you, Michelle, you are here, we are in this space. Kenya is still the best destination to invest in, because of the quality labor market and very many reasons, and also several arteries of transport infrastructure. Let me come to transport, because that was a key discussion. I agree very strongly. The artery that supports the manufacturing and movement of goods is transport. The artery that supports even construction is transport. And I agree very strongly. There is need to invest more in more modern transport system. We don't need to be having matatus in Nairobi. It's either buses or trams or trains and other forms of easier and cheaper means of transport. We don't need to congest the center of Nairobi with skyscrapers so that you congest the population. We need to strengthen settlement outside in metropolis and easy movement of people to and fro with an elaborate transport system. We cannot praise Malaysia here, we cannot praise Singapore and praise many countries, and praise we can as well do that in the country. So I believe very strongly the foundation of all these areas of investment, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's construction, whether it's agriculture, whatever, and even accommodation and transport, is a transport infrastructure. And I agree very, very strong. In fact, we don't need to tax bread and households. We can generate billions and billions of revenue from the transport by ensuring that we move fully to ICT infrastructure and penalize road offenders and the rest, and collect a huge amount of resources.
All right.
I think it is time we think out of the box. I'm only complimenting what Honorable Ruku is talking about.
We must begin to wind up, gentlemen.
There is a lot that can be done so that then in the future we'll be able to see a great leap in the manufacturing, in construction,
of all that. Let me come to you, Honorable Ruku. We only have about 8 minutes, gentlemen. So as you say that, a lot has been said. But even as we talk about, the economy doing well, the Controller of Budget has actually laughed off revenue targets for the next financial year, saying expecting an additional 700 billion shillings from taxes in the country is actually expecting miracles. Just the other day, we had an NGO announcing 2 internships, and over 3,000 Kenyans applied for these 2 internships. So I'm not sure whether the situation on the ground reflects the data in this outlook, as Basil says.
Sometimes if I was the president, I would sack some of these people, in the government, because the control of budget, I think she is still in very old school. It is possible to increase the tax base of this nation. If you look at the finance bill, it is proposing amendment of a tax. Let me look at it. It is proposing the amendment of. It's proposing the amendment of income tax act, where we are going to see the digital service tax to be replaced with the significant economic present tax on taxation of digital services. You know, we are talking about derivatives. We have a market which is not taxed, the derivative market. And we have people doing business within the Kenyan economy, and they are not in the country. They may be in Russia, they may be in the US, they may be in other nations. But they are doing business in Kenya, they are not taxed, and they are earning a lot of money. That's what we call a derivative market. Now, how do we tax those people? It is possible to tax them. It's possible for the government to get some money from that derivative market. And these are the areas which we need to focus on. So it is possible to increase the revenue, the tax revenue, from what we are getting now.
Through taxes alone, additional 700 billion.
From coming up with innovative ways of getting revenue, getting taxes. For instance, this we are talking about to allow the derivation of the income, even from non-resident who operate on online marketplace. So it is possible to increase. But the control and budget may not be thinking about in this direction. I have come up with a digital, a virtual asset bill, which will regulate the trading of virtual assets in Kenya. Right. That space only, it is a space worth $20 billion year 2023. But Kenyans, or the government of Kenya, did not get a coin. $1 out of that space. This is
what we expect members of parliament like you to be passing in parliament.
We need to expand our tax base through some of these innovative ways. Right. So it is possible. And that's what we are saying, the people in Treasury, the people, technocrats in Treasury, please, we have to think in an innovative way for us to grow this nation, for us to increase. We cannot be talking of increasing the VAT on bread. We have to get innovative areas where we can get more money.
We must find out, Basil, even as you contribute on that, I'll give you closing comments, Ruko. I'll give you a closing comment.
Talk about manufacturing.
Yes, I'll give you a closing comment. Even as the COB says it's a miracle, expecting 700 billion in additional taxes. Some feel like the country is drinking water, preaching water and drinking wine, because we have the president who's going to the US, and this trip is actually going to cost Kenyans about 200 million shillings just for the jet, which it costs about 2 million shillings per hour for the next 4 days. And it's a whole conversation on austerity measures and whatnot. But what are your thoughts on the situation on the ground?
If you listened to the president back in 2022, I think 2 weeks before election, he was saying that the government of that time, every day is introducing new taxes. And he said he was tired with that, and that he wanted to be re-elected so that he can reverse such a trend. But unfortunately, he seems to be doing the opposite, because he's introducing new taxes every single day. What I would make reference to is what Winston Churchill said, and it's a very famous quote, where he said, a country trying to overtax itself to prosperity is like a man standing on a bucket and trying to lift himself with a finger. This is to tell you, you cannot depend or rely on taxes to be able to progress or to move your country forward. What we need to do as a country is to invest, one, in production, invest in manufacturing, invest in infrastructure, mitigate import, because that's where we lose our currency, through production, and manage wastages, like what you have already alluded to, because there's so much wastages in government. You can't chew than what you can swallow. You have to chew what you can swallow. In other words, you have to live within your means.
You're right.
Another
and that's what Kenyans have
thing
been told
which
to
this
do.
country needs to do, and that is what has been ailing us since 1963, and I have to say it without missing my words. Let's try to run off or to run away from negative ethnicity.
All right.
That is killing the dreams of our forefathers, is killing the dreams of current and future generations. Because currently what is happening, if you are someone in a center of authority, instead of having an holistic view on governance, you are thinking about your tribe. You are thinking about taking services to where you come from or where you got votes from. We need to understand it is time now to have equity in service delivery.
Okay, let's find it up.
And
there.
that is the only way we
Jeff.
can have uniformity and have a real GDP growth.
All right, Sosion, your closing comments, very, very briefly, 30 seconds, please.
No, I think you introduced a topic of the president's visit to the U.S. and the cost, and it's important I mention it. Are you aware that state visitors to the U.S. are transported at the cost of the U.S. government itself, including up to and including accommodation? So really, this is a
Kenyans
debate
will not
that
be spending.
Yeah, they will not pay, because if that's arrangement of the U.S. government, so that's it, and it's up to the U.S. government to ensure that their state visitors are transported using secure means. So this one,
including
so that
including the entire delegation that traveled with the president.
So that debate has no basis whatsoever. And then number two, tax payment. We must accept that for services to be delivered and for the budget to be financed properly, there must be clear revenue collection measures. And currently, the tax collection in Kenya is at 14% of the GDP. It's expected to expand to 16%. And somebody saying you cannot raise additional 700 billion, then should tell us a better option of raising that 700 billion. I believe the country is on the right trajectory, and the economy will not stabilize if we don't accept that we must expand the tax revenue collection base so that we can finance the budget and trigger the manufacturing sector.
All right. Let's find out.
Whereas
the concern is where to get those taxes.
It is also right to ensure that the basic services due to the households are not overtaxed. And that is now the work of parliamentarians.
So we are completely out of time. Let me give Ruku his closing comments. 30 seconds, please. Yes, let's give him his closing comments. Very briefly,
we want to thank the Kenya Kwanza administration, the president, for the good performance for 2023 state of economy. Things were extremely hand, but the president has steered the economy in the most prudent way. The manufacturing sector is performing well, but we have a big room for improvement, and we have to continue pushing those who are managing that sector to ensure everything is aligned properly, to give proper incentives to the manufacturers so that we can be able to export many goods out of this nation, especially to the region and to the southern part of the Africa and the north part of Africa, getting goods coming from our economy. We have to push those who are in that sector.
Absolutely. Basil, my director will kill me for this one. 10 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. First, I want to tell my brother Sosion, when he said that he made a reference to growth, and that's saying that, of course, the U.S. government is covering the cost. But I don't think it's 100% covered. Of course, he has to be honest and say our government is meeting some cost. But that's not the point I want to say. The point I want to put across is that if, as a country, we manage also issues of graft, because corruption is also another issue that is pulling us down. If we can manage these, comprehensively,
then a lot will be saved.
Then we'll be able to save so much.
All right, gentlemen, many thanks for being part of this conversation as we analyze the country's state of economy. We've been speaking to Yatta Member of Parliament, Honorable Robert Basil Mbere, North Member of Parliament, Honorable Geoffrey Ruku, as well as former Member of Parliament and former NAT Secretary General Wilson Sosion. Many thanks for watching. Let's take a look at some feedback that you've been sending in this morning. Pavel says, a time is coming when all these burdensome taxes will go away. We need to go back to default settings to rescue Kenya. It's a sinking ship. Overtaxing an economy that is almost dead will surely kill it. And we have Kimathi says, agriculture is the driver of Kenya's economy. That is the CS we should all be knowing. Cassie says, Kenya is growing nothing, not even sugar, rice or maize, let alone the economy. Nothing is growing here. Things are thick and hard. And Cohen says, KNBS is reporting that the economy grew. Kenyans and Kenya should arise. Nothing is done for your interest. Alan says the timelines of the KNBS report is questionable. Could it be to hoodwink the U.S. investors by massaging the figures? Let's be honest with ourselves. If the economy was indeed growing, the crime rate would be low. Pesa mfukoni. All right, that's an interesting thought there. Justice says it will be getting worse each year until 2027. He wins again and continues with his worst budget until 2032. Azimio will just be talking without action. Joel Chacha says, happy birthday, Michelle Ngele. You're an incredible person, Manedu, and the best at what you do. To more years of success and happiness. Regards to New Dawn producer. Many, many thanks. That is Joel Chacha, who's our producer here on the New Dawn. And, you know, it's a special day for me too. So thank you for being here, gentlemen. Thank you. And thank you to you too for watching. My name is Michelle Ngele Odhiambo. Good morning.